At 2:13 a.m. on June 27, 2025, over a dozen Israeli fighter jets flew straight into the heart of Lebanon and dropped numerous 2,000-pound bunker busters on what the IDF claimed to be Hezbollah underground strongholds. The roar of jet engines then faded into the night, leaving behind collapsed hilltops, burning debris, and several civilian casualties. But this wasn't just another airstrike, it was one of Israel's most aggressive actions in Lebanon since the ceasefire of late 2024. A ceasefire that up until now had kept a fragile calm in the region. But things are certain to heat up now that Israel has turned multiple apartment buildings into parking lots. For nearly 2 decades now, Israel and Hezbollah have been locked in what many call a shadow war, a cold conflict punctuated by sudden flare-ups, missile barrages, and covert operations. Since then, Hezbollah has grown from a militia into a hybrid army, with an arsenal exceeding 150,000 rockets and guided munitions, many of which are stored under civilian infrastructure, and it has positioned itself as Iran's most powerful regional proxy. For Israel, this transformation has become an existential concern. By early 2025, Israeli surveillance platforms including G550 aircraft and Heron TP drones noticed patterns. Large trucks moving around throughout the night and new terrain disturbances in the hills east of Nabatea. Imagery experts flagged changes in terrain consistent with excavation. Intel was pointing towards the construction of underground reinforced bunkers, most likely as launch tunnels for short-range rockets. Israeli military intelligence concluded these were part of what Hezbollah calls Project Precision, an Iranian-funded initiative to convert dumb rockets into GPS-guided missiles. For Israel, the choice was brutal: do nothing and risk Hezbollah acquiring strategic strike capability, or act to aggressively and reignite full-scale war on the northern front while still fighting in Gaza and dealing with West Bank insurgencies. But things really heated up in early June when satellite data reportedly confirmed weapons transfers through Syria into southern Lebanon. And for Israel, that was the final straw. At 2:13 a.m. local time on June 27, 2025, residents of Nabatea were jolted awake by the sound of jets ripping through the night sky. A sequence of thunderous explosions followed, each strike carefully timed, each target mapped out weeks in advance. The operation was conducted with a mixed strike package. At least 6 F-35 Adir stealth fighters from the 140th Squadron, known for surgical long-range precision, participated in the opening wave. Complementing them were F-16I Sufa multi-role fighters from the 107th Squadron loaded with smart munitions. Both aircraft types launched from Ramat David Air Base, supported by Gulfstream G550 planes providing real-time electronic surveillance. The jets approached from the west, flying low over the sea before climbing over the Lebanese coastal range, avoiding known Hezbollah radar fields. The timing was surgical, designed to limit exposure and maximize shock value. The IDF's intelligence directorate had spent weeks mapping suspected Hezbollah activity using synthetic aperture radar. Priority targets were marked as high-value command facilities, likely containing encrypted communications hubs, power backups, and possibly underground barracks. Each strike was matched to a specific munition. Deep earth targets were hit by BLU-109 bunker busters, 2,000-pound bombs equipped with delayed fuses to penetrate up to 6 feet of reinforced concrete before detonating. These were guided by both GPS and laser designation to minimize off-target damage. The first wave, comprised mostly of F-35s, struck primary hardened targets, 2 bunkered hillsides, and a suspected C2 node. These attacks came within the first 3 minutes. The second wave, taking place just 5 minutes later, involved a mix of F-16s and F-35s. This time the focus was surface infrastructure, antennas, portable radar dishes, electrical relays, and secondary command bunkers believed to be disguised within residential areas. One of the buildings they hit turned out to be hiding a large supply of ballistic missiles, leading to a large secondary explosion and rogue missiles crashing into nearby buildings. To avoid collateral damage, Israel reportedly used Spike NLOS loitering munitions for some of the soft target hits. These are electro-optically guided and can abort mid-flight if the target environment changes. But despite these precautions, one of the strikes impacted a civilian apartment building in Nabatiyeh. The building was located less than 120 meters from a suspected weapons cache. A delayed secondary explosion indicated either stored ordnance or fuel inside, a claim Hezbollah denies. Initial IDF statements claimed the building was unoccupied, but video footage from local Lebanese outlets showed paramedics pulling injured civilians from the rubble, and hospital records confirmed at least 21 injuries and 1 fatality. This incident became the most controversial part of the entire operation, sparking protests in Beirut and immediate calls for retaliation from Hezbollah-affiliated political figures. When the sun rose over Nabatiyeh on June 27th, the strike's aftermath was undeniable. The scent of concrete dust and charred insulation still hung in the air. The screams had faded, replaced by the low hum of ambulances and rescue crews. Beneath the rubble of a modest apartment building, a different kind of war story was unfolding, one that no drone feed or satellite image could capture. At 2:16 a.m., just minutes after the first wave of airstrikes, a blast ripped through a 3-story residential structure on the outskirts of Nabatiyeh. The building was home to 9 families. Among them were school teachers, a mechanic, an elderly widow, and several children under the age of 10. It is unclear at this time whether this building was hit by an Israeli aircraft or one of the rogue missiles from a destroyed Hezbollah stockpile. Rescue workers on scene reported a secondary explosion just seconds after the initial impact, which again is consistent with there being a hidden stockpile underneath the apartment. The rescue workers say this secondary explosion collapsed the stairwell and trapped residents on the top floor. Survivors described a blinding flash, followed by complete darkness and the sensation of the entire world falling inward. By 6 a.m. that morning, 21 civilians had been pulled from the ruins, many with burns, shrapnel wounds, or crushed limbs. A 38-year-old mother of 2 was among the injured. She was rushed to Nabatiyeh Government Hospital, where she later died from internal bleeding. She was the first confirmed civilian casualty of the strike. Just hours after the reports surfaced, the IDF issued a rare, rapid public statement. They acknowledged the building was hit, but denied it was deliberately targeted. According to Israeli military spokesperson Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Hagari, intelligence indicated that the structure had been repurposed by Hezbollah to store short-range missiles. To back their claim, the IDF released black and white thermal footage captured from a surveillance drone showing a delayed secondary explosion, larger than the initial blast, interpreted as consistent with a weapons cache ignition. The footage, they said, proved the apartment complex was being used as a launch-ready depot embedded within civilian infrastructure. In the IDF's words, this is a tragic consequence of Hezbollah's war by embedding tactics. When rockets are hidden among families, consequences follow. We regret any civilian harm, and this was not our intent. But across the border, the narrative couldn't have been more different. The Lebanese Prime Minister took to the national airways saying this: "This was not a strike against arms. This was a strike against innocent people, against children sleeping in their beds, against civilians who have never held a weapon. This is a blatant violation of Lebanese sovereignty and international law." Hezbollah issued a short but defiant response, denying any military use of the building and accusing Israel of fabricating evidence to mask what they call a war crime. The group vowed revenge but did not immediately launch any retaliation. For the people of Nabatiyeh, the message was clear. No part of Lebanon is off limits, not even homes, not even at night. And if Hezbollah continues to build under their feet, then war will come through the ceiling. From a strategic perspective, Israel's motives were clear. The strike served 4 purposes: disrupt Hezbollah's military infrastructure, signal resolve post-ceasefire, test Iranian red lines, and deter future attacks from the north while Israel remains embroiled in Gaza. With tensions still boiling along the northern border, Israeli defense officials feared Hezbollah was positioning itself for a second front, possibly coordinated with Iranian IRGC advisors. Israel must prevent Hezbollah from rebuilding no matter the cost. But Lebanon, already reeling from political instability and economic collapse, sees things differently. For them, this is another reminder that they're caught between two giants, Israel and Iran, fighting a proxy war over their own land.